Are we ready to walk? I'll wait for acting city manager Molly. Does anyone else know?
Yeah, I mean, he's letting everyone he needs to know, but
Okay, but not for our-
no.
Just so I can leave it there.
Yeah. You're all right with that. I can either do that or send a note later tomorrow.
Want to do that? Everyone ready?
Ready? Yeah, we're good to go.
Good. Good. Ready? Good evening, everyone. This is the November 23rd, 2020 edition of the Moorhead City Council meeting. The time is approximately 5:31, and we'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can you give us a roll call, please?
Shelley Dahlquist.
Here.
Sarah Watson-Curry.
Here.
Shelley Carlson.
Here.
Heidi Durand.
Here.
Deb White.
Here.
Larry Seljevold.
Here.
Chuck Hendrickson.
Here.
Steve Lindas.
Here.
And then in chambers, I have John Shockley, City Attorney, and Acting City Manager Dan Molly, and then Mayor Jonathan Judd.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And can we all please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I am Mayor Jonathan Judd. The Moorhead City Council is holding its regularly scheduled meeting using virtual meeting technology under an emergency declaration due to COVID-19. I am in the City Council chambers along with the Acting City Manager, City Attorney, City Clerk, and I think we are the only staff members other than IT that are present. Council members are attending remotely. Any public comment received prior to this meeting will be read as a part of the record during the applicable agenda item. The public may participate during the meeting by calling 218-299-5001. Public input will be taken by a staff member and provided to me to read during the meeting. Or you may request that your call be bridged to the virtual WebEx meeting and speak directly during our public hearings or citizens addressing the council agenda item. Again, the public comment line is 218-299-5001. And if there isn't an answer, please leave your message or callback number, and a member of our staff will get back to you as soon as possible. And with that, we'll move to item number 3 on the agenda. Are there any amendments regarding tonight's agenda? Acting City Manager Molly or Madam City Clerk Russ?
None, Mayor.
Then we'll move on to item number 4 on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Are there any items that were coming off consent, asked to come off consent this evening?
I'm not aware of any, Mayor.
Then with that, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as noted in our packet this evening.
Councilmember Lindos moves approval of the consent agenda.
White seconds.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Madam City Clerk?
Dahlquist.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Watson-Curry.
Yes.
Durand.
Yes.
Seljevold.
Aye.
White.
Yes.
Lindas.
Yes.
Hendrickson.
Aye.
Motion passes. We move on to item number 5 in tonight's agenda, which is the recognitions presentations. 5A, proclamation for Minnesota State Representative Ben Lean, and I believe Ms. Bodie is going to bring this forward. Ms. Bodie?
Well, thank you, Mayor, and good evening to the City Council. I'm delighted that we are honoring Representative Ben Lean tonight with a proclamation. His service to the community cannot adequately be measured, although you will see that we tried to quantify some of what he's done for Moorhead during his 12 years at the legislature. I've had the pleasure to work with Ben closely these past 2 years, and as we were preparing background materials for tonight's meeting, I also reached out to others that have worked with Representative Lean, and these comments are reflected in the message of extreme gratitude that we have for Representative Lean's important work on the city's behalf. So with that, Mayor Judd, I believe you have a proclamation.
Thank you, Ms. Bodie. And I think before I read it, I want to also give council the opportunity, if they wish to make any comments regarding Representative Lean and his work. I'll open it up and take any hands if anyone wishes to say anything on the council's behalf. And I see Councilmember White, Councilmember Hendrickson, and Councilmember Dahlquist, so we'll go with Councilmember White first.
Thank you, Mayor. It really is a pleasure to be able to just say a few words for Representative Lean, and I am sad to see him leaving. Besides the great work that he's done on behalf of our city, I just also wanted to highlight his undying commitment to public higher education. And, you know, in a difficult time when, you know, public higher education has struggled, we need champions, and he's always been there for us. And I just wanted him to know personally how much I value all the work he's done on behalf of our community, our campuses, our state. So thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, Councilmember White. And we'll pass it on to Councilmember Hendrickson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ben, just want to thank you. One of my pet projects was the transfer station. You got that through finally, so really appreciate that. All the LGA work you've done for us, save taxpayers money in Moorhead, and just a great job done. And we're going to miss you, absolutely going to miss you. But thank you for all your service, and thank you for representing Moorhead so well.
Thank you, Councilmember Hendrickson. Then we'll pass it to Councilmember Dahlquist.
Thank you, Mayor. I was lucky enough to meet Ben when he first ran, and he's always been available for any questions to anybody. He's just been such a great person to help the city. He truly loves the city, and it just shows. And I will be so sad to see him go, but I want to thank him so much for all that he's done.
Thank you, Councilmember Dahlquist. Councilmember Lindos.
I think my colleagues have already expressed every sentiment that I had, but I just would add that having gotten to know and work with Ben Lean before I was on the council, I found his efforts equally valuable. And then when I got on the council, you start seeing the behind the scenes work that has to go on, and it's even more impressive. So I appreciate everything that he has done.
Thank you, Councilmember Lindos. Councilmember Durand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like Councilmember Lindos said, everything's pretty much been said, so I would just like to repeat and say ditto to what everybody else has said. Ben, you've done a magnificent job. You've done wonderful things for Moorhead. You know, we're all going to miss you, but I don't imagine you'll be slipping away into the into the shadows and not to be seen again. I would imagine that you'll stay involved in some way, shape, or form. And I look forward to that and maybe opportunities to work with you on other issues in our community. And thanks again, Ben.
Thank you, Councilmember Duran. And does any other council member wish to be heard? Okay, and Representative Lean, or Ben, I want to tell you that I greatly appreciate, I'm sorry, I got to take this mask off just for a brief moment. I want to tell you that I really appreciate the work that you've done also to educate me on these issues that affect our city as well as our region and our state. And as a newbie at this job, I appreciate your patience and also your willingness to listen. I think the biggest thing that I think that I've learned from you, and I think that other future leaders in our city will learn through your legacy of serving, is the fact that you are a consummate relationship builder. I mean, it's one of those things where when you built relationships, they were never transactional. I mean, you really, took to heart what people said in their stories, and you really tried to make things happen. And I think that speaks volumes of who you are, not only as a leader, but as a person. So I think the way that you have carried yourself in public office, how you've served us, really is a model that I hope others can learn from as they progress in their journey as leaders in the future. So I'm really, really grateful to have worked with you. And with that, I will read the proclamation. The official proclamation, City of Moorhead, State of Minnesota. Whereas Minnesota State Representative Ben Lean was elected to the Minnesota Legislature in 2012 and is completing his fourth and final term representing Moorhead District 4A. And whereas Representative Lean has served on legislative committees that informed and advanced public policy statewide, including the Greater Minnesota Jobs and Economic Development Finance Division, Higher Education Finance and Policy Division, Subcommittee on Local Government and Taxes. And whereas Representative Lean has advanced numerous City of Moorhead legislative goals that have significant measurable benefit to Moorhead residents, businesses, and visitors, including advocating for local government aid, which is critical to providing essential municipal services and keeping local property tax rates affordable. Notably, Representative Lean served as the chief author of the 2013 bill that increased LGA significantly and updated the formula. Achieving permanent border city enterprise zone funding for Moorhead, as well as the cities of Dilworth, East Grand Forks, and Breckenridge. Securing significant bonding appropriations to fund critical infrastructure, including more than $110 million combined for the Southeast Main 21st Street, and the downtown 11th Street Railroad underpass projects. More than $26 million for permanent flood control. $7.5 million for a new solid waste transfer station. This infrastructure will save lives and resources, improve emergency response, and keep Moorhead in business during flood events, now and for decades to come. And whereas during his 8 years in office, Representative Lean has been a collaborative leader who demonstrates effectiveness regardless of the political party in charge, helping Moorhead advance its priorities into both tax and bonding bills under both DFL and GOP majorities. Now, therefore, I, Jonathan Judd, do hereby proclaim November 23rd, 2020 as Representative Ben Lean Appreciation Day to thank and recognize Representative Lean for his leadership and outstanding public service on behalf of Moorhead and its citizens. And I've signed the proclamation to be affixed as of today's date. And I know Representative Lean is not big on these types of deals. However, we do want you to know that we do appreciate you, and if you wish to share a few words with the public, hey, it's all on you. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and for all those very, very kind and very gracious, heartfelt words from all of you council members. I really, really do appreciate it. And, I first have to, of course, thank the people of House District 4A, Moorhead and Oakport Township for putting their trust in me to get the job done over the last 8 years. It's been an incredible opportunity to represent my hometown in St. Paul in the House of Representatives, and it's a highlight of my lifetime, truly and honestly. I just really, appreciate all of the conversations and all of the collaborations that we've been able to have, myself and constituents of House District 3, to get the job done, because it takes all of us to do these things. And I do also want to thank a couple other people, certainly Mayor Judd, as well as Mayor Boxland and Mayor Williams, former Representative Maury Lanning, and Representative-elect Heather Keeler for championing this position that I've held the last 8 years and really doing the good service of Moorhead, and now continuing to do the good service of Moorhead. I also can't go without thanking Representative Marquardt and Senator Eakin for just being such solid partners, and for the three of us working together to be such a solid, effective team for this part of Minnesota. I really can't thank them enough in showing me the ropes and being mentors during my first campaign, and just really being solid partners and getting the job done for Clay County, for Moorhead these last years. It's really been incredible to serve with those two. They're some of the most respected bipartisan legislators in St. Paul, and so to have had the opportunity to work with such professionals like that it's really been rewarding. And lastly, I just want to ask people, as the times we have right now are so intense and so emotional, and at times can get so divisive, I just ask people to have more understanding and more compassion, and to take the time to have patience and to listen to each other. Because, like I say, these times are incredibly difficult, all of us. This has been the most difficult year that I served in the legislature. And we have to work together to get these things done. We have to work together to bridge our divisions and to accomplish the solutions that we need to arrive at in order to address these problems. Because not any one of us is going to do it alone. It's going to take all of us working together. And I know we have those divisions, and that's what really makes us unique. That's what makes American politics unique, is that we can come into this arena, so many different life experiences and perspectives, and so many different ideas of what needs to be done. And we have to focus on the common goals. We have to focus on the common interests, because it's going to take all of us to get these things done. It's going to take all of us to find the solutions that we need to find to move forward as Minnesotans, as Americans. And I've never quite learned the proper term for this, but I'm going to say as Moorheadonians. We have to work together to get these things done for a better tomorrow. So really, Mayor Judd, council members, citizens of House District 4A, Moorhead and Oakport Township, truly, thank you. My heart goes out to all of them. Thank you.
And again, thank you, Representative Ling, for your service. And I know we will be still seeing you around, because you have a wealth of knowledge to share with us all. So thank you again for your service.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, we'll go to 5B, which is a proclamation for Small Business Saturday, and we'll send this over to DMI CEO Derek LaPointe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, and glad to be here with you virtually tonight, and really just wanted to say a few words and recognize that obviously the National Small Business Saturday is this Saturday, but obviously this year's been different. Our small businesses need us more than ever, and I really wanted to just encourage all of us as Moorhead citizens, as residents of the Fargo-Moorhead area, to support our businesses from now, going forward for years to come. they need our support more than ever. These folks are our heart and soul of our community. They support us endlessly, and now it's our turn to support them as much as we possibly can. So this proclamation tonight is a small token to federally and nationally recognize them, but it's just a small piece of what we're trying to accomplish, and ultimately the support that we need to give them moving forward. So thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, and continue to support our local businesses as much as we possibly can. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And thank you, Mr. Lapointe, for your words. I think the best way to kind of sum this up is I believe I saw something on social media that talked about the businesses who are there to support our youth sports and arts and activities. When we need them, they're there for us. So I would probably echo that now these businesses who routinely do that now need our support. So I would urge everyone to get out, not just on Small Business Saturday, but throughout the year, and please support our local businesses. So with that, I'll read the proclamation. It's the official proclamation, City of Moorhead, State of Minnesota. Whereas the government of Moorhead, Minnesota celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, and whereas according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 31.7 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.9% of all firms with paid employees in the United States, are responsible for 65.1% of net new jobs created from 2000 to 2019. And whereas small businesses employ 47.1% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, 62% of U.S. small businesses reported that they need to see consumer spending return to pre-COVID levels by the end of 2020 in order to stay in business. And whereas 96% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that shopping at small, independently owned businesses support their commitment to making purchases that have a positive social, economic, and environmental impact, and 97% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that small businesses are essential to their community. And whereas Moorhead supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities, and whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Jonathan Judd, do hereby proclaim November 28th, 2020 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. And the proclamation was signed and affixed on November 2nd, 2020. Thank you again, Mr. Lapointe. Then, folks, I think that moves us to 5C, which is a presentation by the Community Workforce Inclusion Council. And I believe to bringing this on board to us all is Chet Bowden from Minnesota Deed and Leticia Hellerud. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Judd, and thank you, council members, for having us here today. Leticia is going to kick us off with a bit of information about the Community Workforce Inclusion Council. That's been around now for almost 3 years, I believe. And then I'll go into some of the work we've been doing as a result of the council's research and recommendations.
Thank you, Chet. So I'm unable to see the screen. I don't know if we have the slides up.
Working on it. 1 second.
let me know when you have it, because I'm afraid to play with WebEx. This is my first WebEx, so it's not as perfect. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Leticia Hellerud, and I'm an intercultural consultant, owner of Ubuntu Consulting, which specializes in creating better integrated, more equitable workplaces and communities through customized collaborations. In 2017, Ubuntu Consulting was hired. Actually, we can go back to the previous, yeah, thank you. Ubuntu Consulting was hired by these 4 organizations on this slide to conduct a study on the integration of new Americans in Clay County, focusing on employment. Next slide, please. Chet, you want to go on the next slide? And actually, yes, next slide. The funding, you can go to the next one. So the funding for this study was provided by Clay County Social Services through the Pathway to Prosperity stream. Next one. The key findings were organized into 14 trends, also identified as threats, as follows: collaborations, partnerships, resources and access to services, staffing, community, meaning mainstream and the new Americans, education, health, transportation, daycare, housing, leadership development, cultural differences and biases, building trust, systems, and funding. So the methodology, for the next slide, the methodology used to gather the information included in this report included various means of direct contact, like to new Americans themselves, but also to providers of services to new Americans. The limitations to this phase 1, next slide, included the lack of quantitative data and also input from employers. So efforts were made to include employers' perspectives, but we did not get participation that significant enough to include in the findings. So in 2019, next slide, funding was provided through the mainstream to conduct a second phase of the New American Project, and this time focusing on not on Clay County, but Fargo and Moorhead, and also just narrowing it down to four threats or trends: childcare, transportation, housing, and education. So the goals, next slide, the goals for this second phase were to validate the 2017 study findings, to develop a directory for new American stakeholders, and also outline strategies for consistent practices. And on the next slide, one of the outcomes of phase 2 was the creation of the Community Workforce Inclusion Council. And the goal for this group was to champion a strong, diverse workforce that addresses the needs of Moorhead and Fargo, employment needs in the Fargo-Moorhead region. So the key partners in this effort, next slide, are listed on this slide. So, and then the next slide. So the Community Workforce Inclusion Council has identified, and I see we may have lost some information as we transferred the slides. So, oh, I guess it's coming. So if you want to populate that, that would be great. So the Community Workforce Inclusion Council has identified different avenues to engage businesses in the Southeast North Dakota and Northwest Minnesota region to further the diversity, inclusion, and equity efforts started by this consortium. So, and my good friend and partner through the Community Workforce Inclusion Council chat, Bodine, will highlight one of those initiatives in this second part of the presentation, and we can address the questions at the end. Thank you again for having us tonight. Chat, you are next.
Thanks, Letitia. And Letitia and the Community Workforce Inclusion Council really deserve the bulk of the credit here for identifying the needs and some of the work we can do to improve the inclusion in our workforce. You know, from Deed's perspective, you know, we saw the great local engagement happening here on this issue, and just wanted to support it any way we could. And so as we've built out what's become known as the inclusive workforce employer designation, I've just tried to play a supporting role in sharing that information with businesses and councils like yourself. So that's why my part here is just to talk a little bit about that. Let's see if I can get back to it. So Letitia mentioned that we brought together more business engagement in phase 2. And so we had business leaders talk really to take this idea and try to build a program out of it to recognize and promote employers who are building an inclusive and equitable workplace, and then share that with diverse talent pools, you know, to highlight their place of business as a place that is building inclusive workplace practices and prepared to manage multicultural workplaces and set up new residents for success. I come from a labor market background. My first job in the region for Deed was as a labor market analyst, and so I always talk a little bit about some of the data. And this table just quickly shows the change in our workforce demographics since the turn of the century. Now this includes a 26 county region that I'm responsible for. And so just a quick snapshot, but something we share just to show, you know, the diversity is increasing. Many of you have probably heard about the labor force shortages that employers have been facing even before COVID, you know, for years now, because of, you know, a high level of retirements from baby boomer generation. And so, you know, through this process, you know, we also had an equity summit in 2019. We brought a bunch of businesses there to get their feedback on some of these issues as recommended by Letitia. And what we heard was we need more resources and support as we look to build more inclusive places of business and workforces. And so this idea then, you know, the quick worked with the broader region, which is known as the Regional Workforce Alliance. It's a collaborative between rural Minnesota SEP and Northwest PIC. Long story short, they're tasked with planning workforce strategies at a regional level. They agreed to adopt this idea on a broader scale and brought together businesses and members of the community to design a program. So this last year, we met often in the development of this program. We had 5 pilot organizations go through it and determine if the process we designed towards building a more inclusive workplace culture was actually doing that. and if it was helping them to recruit a more diverse workforce. So those were kind of like our metrics for deciding if the program was working or not. We made several adjustments along the way, and then this summer, five organizations were received the Inclusive Workforce Employer designation due to some of the efforts that they undertook during the pilot phase. We created a web page to help promote them, also to share resources, sort of a clearinghouse for different training, assessment, programmatic resources that businesses could tap into. Most of them are publicly available resources, at low cost or no cost. But really all of them were to help a business meet each piece of criteria that they would need to in order to receive the designation. The criteria are listed here. This was decided on by both business leaders and members of the community who work with diverse talent pools. So first is express a commitment, to these principles: diversity, equity, inclusion, specifically an inclusive workplace. Assess how diversity, equity, and inclusion currently play a role in their place of business, and through that process, look for opportunities to improve. Third is to provide diversity, equity, inclusion education for staff and leadership, either generally, education on these topics, or more targeted education if they on either working with a specific element of diversity or intercultural communication, for example. How do we actually implement inclusive workplace practices? So anything on the range from theory to actual implementation of practices. And then fourth, how do we sustain this work over time? What we heard from businesses, part of the pilot program and others, was that they have taken on training in the past, but found it difficult to really weave what they'd learned into their culture and make it last. And so, we're asking that businesses allocate resources to support, sustain this in their business. In order to receive the designation, there's a process a business will go through. We try to make it not very cumbersome, but basically they start out, kind of expressing an interest through the online portal. At that point, someone from the Regional Workforce Alliance, usually myself, reaches out to them and just has kind of an initial consultation about where they're at with their diversity, equity, inclusion efforts to date. We talk about some resources that I've learned in my own research and I've learned from other businesses and workforce partners that are valuable and have been effective. So I talk about some of those that might help them as they take steps towards each piece of criteria. And then sometimes this process is very quick for businesses that are pretty advanced, and sometimes it takes months, 6 months, for them to really do what they need to do to learn and feel like they're making that shift. But when they're ready, we submit an application for recognition, which is approved by the RWA. Through the pilot and beyond, we've developed a web page for businesses, again, to go apply, to onboard to the program. We have a toolkit there that's always growing. We also promote businesses that have received the designation so far. To date, we have 8 businesses who have received the designation and another 6 that are in the process. We have started a social media campaign to promote the program widely. I can share some of those posts in the chat if you'd like to go visit and share. We'd certainly appreciate it. If you have business owners or in the Moorhead community who you think would benefit from this, please share. And then just a little bit of contact information. Thank you again for your time. We'd be happy to take a couple questions. But we really feel like this is a strongly designed workforce strategy. And it's really building a bridge between employers in the region and diverse talent pools, especially for new Americans who don't have that community history. They don't have that historical knowledge of what's going on in a community and which businesses might be in a better position to support them as they start their life here. And so we're really proud of the work we've done so far, and hope to continue to improve this program and the connections in the community so it lasts.
Chet, do you mind sharing the 5 businesses that have already applied and received this designation?
Yep. So in the Region 4, West Central Minnesota, those organizations are Goldmark Property Management, who is, of course, located in Fargo, but does a lot of business in Minnesota, and has a lot of employees in Minnesota. Diecast Specialties in Starbuck, Minnesota. It's a production facility down there who's done great work. They've contracted with M-State and their customized training office actually to deliver some intercultural communication training that's really prepared them and their existing workforce to become more diverse and inclusive. West Central Initiative and Rural Minnesota SEP themselves, 2 nonprofits were part of it. Can be nonprofits or businesses can participate. Essentia Health recently received the designation just a month ago. Is another one in the area.
Thank you, Chet and Leticia, for the presentation. I know that the Quick Council has done a lot of work, and this is great information, I think, for our jurisdiction to move forward with some action steps. I see that there are some council members that have their hands up. So we'll start with Councilmember Durand, then Council Members Carlson, White, and Watson Curry. So Councilmember Durand.
Sorry about that. That was an old hand.
Oh, no worries. Then we'll go to Councilmember Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chet and Leticia, so much for that presentation. I also went to the website that you shared in the chat, and it has a lot of great information. One of the things that you mentioned during the presentation was that one thing that was learned doing the program again was that there was some lack of resources that were needed to sustain the programs. So what are the types of resources that you uncovered that are beneficial in helping to sustain these resources within these organizations?
Chet, would you like me to go ahead and start?
Hi, sorry about that. I just had some problems with WebEx and got kicked out for a second.
Okay,
no worries.
The question was about the resources needed by organizations to sustain this kind of work, diversity, inclusion, and equity. And so what we've, thank you so much, Council Member, that's a great question. What we have discovered is that many organizations, we say that they are interested in doing some kind of trainings related to inclusion and equity, but we have not seen many organizations that would include a budget line, maybe even include like hire staff to continue this kind of work. So like the ongoing commitment is oftentimes lacking. It's usually interests that are either to check a box, maybe it's accreditation year, or just because I don't know, something is happening and maybe it sparks the need for this kind of conversations. But really, what we're talking about is like a lifelong commitment that is reflected by how you allocate funds, by how you hire your staff, by how you promote and retain and promote, and to see that this there is an ongoing interest and commitment to sustaining this. So basically, we're asking organizations not only to support efforts in the community with the smaller organizations that are trying to do this work, but also within their own organizations to make sure that they have staff and money behind this initiative.
Thank you. And now I see Councilmember White, your hand is up, and then Councilmember Watson Curry.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Bowden and Ms. Hellerud, thank you so much for being here, and I just really appreciate the information that you've provided for us. And I had a couple of questions and thoughts. First of all, I was wondering if you are planning to present this to the Moorhead Business Association. You know, they're a great resource in our community that could help get information out to some of our local businesses that might be interested in participating. And then also, Ms. Hellerud, when we read the Fuller report, I appreciated the information that you provided, showing some of the things that we're doing well and some of the areas that we still need improvement. In particular, things related to daycare was one, and of course, as you would not be surprised at all, I honed in on leadership as one of the ones that you talked about. For daycare, I did think that might be, I wondered if you have partnered at all with West Central Initiative, because I know that they are very interested in working on addressing issues of our inadequate supply of childcare, but I think in particular looking at in some ways culturally specific, like some of the things that you mentioned in the report, that I think that would be valuable to make sure that they have that information, and maybe a way that we could get some resources for the community. And then the other thing, as I said, I was particularly interested in the leadership development aspect of it, and looking at ways that we can, as a city, model inclusive leadership development. So I think it's obviously anything we can do to encourage this within our within businesses and organizations in the community. But I just wanted to say too that I think it also is in our interest to model it and to look at how we can encourage leadership development in our city government. And I know these are things that we've talked about before, but that it's, you know, I would love to see us partnering with some of our organizations in Moorhead that work with New American communities to help familiarize people with our local government, with decision-making at the city level, be it basic stuff like, you know, participating in city council meeting, helping people become familiar about how to serve on boards and commissions, and maybe running for elected office too. And I just think that doing anything we can to encourage and make a place for people to be involved in city government so that we have more voices involved in decision making would be good for our community.
Thank you, Council Member White. Most of your comments were, I don't think that there was a question other than a suggestion. Maybe the question was whether we have thought about approaching the Moorhead Business Association, and that's an area that my colleague Chet would maybe could address.
Again, yeah. So to answer your question, yes, I'm talking to Derek about it. Specifically, the training part of the IWE process is, you might be aware, Minnesota State has, you know, their custom managed training office is able to deliver training to small businesses, and sometimes that funding is able to, or that training is able to be paid for by our workforce partners. In this case, rural Minnesota SEP has a incumbent worker training dollars from the state that they can actually grant to businesses to pay for customized training from M-State. And when I learned that training that would satisfy this requirement, you know, could meet that, could be paid for that way, I reached out to Derek and I said, hey, if you have businesses, you know, that are looking to provide some inclusion, equity training for their staff or leadership, you know, here's a way we can work together to deliver that to small businesses that, you know, don't have all the resources as larger businesses like Essentia and some of the other ones that have participated. So, I'll also add that, you know, with the Quick continuing on its effort beyond just the inclusive workforce employer designation, they're doing so many different things, as Leticia pointed out. The city of Fargo has a staff from their planning department come to our meetings, and a lot of the goals that we've identified at the Quick overlap with a lot of the equity goals that Fargo has set through in their planning department. And I think it would be great to have a planning staff from Moorhead join us as well in that group.
And with regards to West Central Initiative, they are big supporters of this work, and they are part of Quick. And you know, like to keep it high level, they are always interested in the recommendation that will bring in, you know, most community members together. So that's the general statement that I would say, collaborating with them and getting support, ongoing support from them. So yeah, and I would be interested as a consultant, but also as a Bush Fellow, which is another completely different area, you know, another hat, I guess, that I wear, to partner with the city of Moorhead in terms of civic engagement with for New Americans, because that's my platform as well. So, thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Leticia, we need to meet for coffee. No,
absolutely.
Yes. Thanks, Leticia.
Thank you. And before I pass it over to Councilmember Watson Curry, just for the city council to know, I do attend the Quick meetings, but I'm wearing my M-State hat. So if we do want to have a council participation in these meetings, the more the merrier. That's for sure. So just throwing that out there. I will now hand it over to Councilmember Watson Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Leticia and Chet, for the presentation. I think my other questions were answered. It sounds like you've had more success with larger businesses, so I was curious about that threshold of employees. But you also alluded to social media, so maybe where can council and staff or the city find information on the program that we might be able to share through those networks? So really, you answered my other question about the threshold of employees, mostly just how can we spread the word amongst business owners?
Well, I want to make it clear that, you know, any business of any size or industry has an opportunity to participate in this. And, you know, to the extent that, you know, my time allows, I'll work with anyone who is willing to invest in improving their culture and making it more inclusive. And I know other members of the Quick and the Regional Workforce Alliance say the same thing. In order to learn more specifically about that program, I did put a link in the chat to the website I referred to in the presentation, where you can go and you can see the toolkit we have built there. You can see the welcome form. So if you have a business that's interested, I direct them to that welcome. It's called the welcome survey, but it's really just a few questions asking, the name of your contact person, name of your business, and when's a good time to reach out to you, so that we can connect and start the process. And to your second part about social media, I also put a link to a LinkedIn post that's been being now promoted online. We are posting these every Monday, have been since the beginning of November through mid-December to try to share more. So please go visit that post as well. Share it with your networks any way you can.
So in the future, I think to streamline future contacts, going through chat indeed would be the best way to do it. I did my work, just foundational, and I'm still a member of Quick, but chat will be the person to keep things moving.
Yeah, I'm sorry, for sure. If you have a business too that wants to just talk to somebody about it, I have my contact information in the presentation. Please tell them to reach out to me. I can answer any questions and get them started, really.
Great. Any other council members have any questions for Mr. Bowden and Ms. Hellerud? All right. Seeing none, thank you both for being here this evening, and thank you again for all of your hard work. I think this is great data and information that I think as a city we could be looking at when we make policy decisions about how we can be supportive of these efforts. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Take care.
You as well. Hey folks, I think that moves us to item number 6 on the agenda, the approval of the minutes. 6A, the approval of the November 9th, 2020 meeting minutes, and item 6B, the approval of the November 13th, 2020 special meeting minutes. And I believe, Mr. Shockley, we can take these both at once, correct?
Mr. Mayor, you are correct.
All right, so unless there's any additions or corrections that need to be made, I'd ask for a motion to approve both.
Vote for approval. This is Chuck.
Second, Carlson.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam City Clerk.
Dahlquist,
Yes.
Watson Curry,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Durand,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Seljevold,
Aye.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Lindas.
Yes.
Motion passes. We move to item number 7, citizens addressing the council. Acting City Manager Molly, Madam City Clerk, Russ, any?
We have no citizens addressing the council tonight, Mayor.
Okay,
None at this time.
all right, thank you. Then that moves us to item number 12 on the agenda, Community Development Department. Item number 12 is to consider actions relating to Transportation Alternatives Grant application, bike, pedestrian bridge at Blue Stem Center for the Arts. And that brings us to, I believe, Assistant City Planner Forrest Steinhoff is going to kick this off for us.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. Great to be with you guys tonight. The resolutions before you are relating to a grant application through the West Central Area Transportation Partnership for the Federal Transportation Alternative Program. We're looking to apply to assist with funding the construction of a bicycle and pedestrian bridge at Blue Stem Center for the Arts at 50th Avenue South. Currently, there are no facilities for bicycles or pedestrians to use to cross the river south of I-94. This bridge at Blue Stem was identified by MetroCog in the 2019 FM Metro Bikeways Gap Analysis Plan as having the highest overall support and positive comments from the community. When respondents were asked, how strongly do you support developing a bikeway in this gap? The bridge received a rating of 4.8 out of 5, and the bridge is also identified in the River Corridor Master Plan. If constructed, the bridge would connect to the Blue Goose Trail segment of the river corridor, be built above the 100-year flood stage of 37 feet to provide year-round access, and would also provide another connection to Blue Stem, providing students with a safe way to get to their classes for Trollwood in the summer, and it could also help with relieving some of the traffic congestion during events. The total estimated cost for the bridge is expected to be about $4.8 million. $4 million would be for the construction of the bridge, and another $800,000 for design and construction management. Available funding is limited for our district, and we are seeking $600,000. If the application is approved, the City of Fargo Engineering Department supports the project and would be a partner in cost sharing, providing about half of the costs, or approximately $2.4 million for each city. The grant application closes on January 8th of 2021, and the grants are expected to be awarded in the first quarter of 2021 as well. If awarded, funding for the bridge becomes available in 2025, and the city would need to budget for the remainder of the bridge, which could include capital improvement funds of approximately $300,000 over 6 years. We would also apply for any additional grant and sponsorship opportunities to help reduce with the local costs. There are 2 resolutions for your consideration today, which are required as part of the application process. And the first is the resolution of sponsorship, which is accepting responsibility as the sponsor of the grant. And the second is a resolution which accepts responsibility to operate and maintain the facility after construction. And that's all I've got for you. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. This is pretty great news. So, council, does anyone have any questions or comments? Oh, Councilmember White, I see your hand up, and then Councilmember Lindos.
I just wanted to speak in favor of it. I know I've heard from lots of residents that they were hoping that we would get something like this. It would allow us to link up with our existing trail system that we have in Moorhead and connect it more easily with the trail system in Fargo. It would help for people that are commuting to work, so they don't, have to go over a much more, difficult trip on one of the other bridges where they are competing with car traffic. I just think it would be great, and also, for people that are going to Blue Stem too, that another way that might help cut down on congestion and all the parking issues that we have sometimes when people go to shows at Blue Stem. So I just think it would be great for our community.
Thank you, Councilmember White, and I'll pass it over to Councilmember Lindos.
Councilmember White just read my mind about a couple of things. So the only thing I have to add is I really like the fact that this is going to be at 37 feet, so it won't have to go up and down quite as much as Gooseberry does, which is a plus for those that really start to rely upon these connections between and across the river. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lindos, and we'll pass over to Councilmember Hendrickson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to echo what Councilmember White said. I've been to concerts out at Blue Stem, and there's just huge congestion there, so I think that would probably alleviate a lot of it. And there are parking issues, so I think this is a great idea, and especially it connects to Fargo, and the biking path. So yeah, I'm more in favor with this. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hendrickson, and I think Acting City Manager Molly wishes to make a comment as well, and then I see after that, Councilmember Durand, your hand is up. You can go ahead.
Appreciate that, Mayor. I just wanted to, this is a key part of the trail loop connection, and it's really exciting. What I wanted to recognize our assistant planner, Forrest Steinhoff, for his great work, and Community Development Director Christy Lashevsky for helping lead it. You'll recall that we had some great news about the Midtown Trail recently. That was the work of Forrest and Christy after a number of attempts, and so we're trying to keep a good thing rolling here. So we're really excited to keep on going. So thank you.
Thank you, Acting City Manager Molly. Councilmember Durand, your hand is up.
Yeah, just a quick question. I know the second part of the resolution is about the operation and the maintenance. Can you explain the cost sharing of that for for people listening at home, who, you know, what would be about, you know, an approximate guess as to the yearly maintenance and how that will be shared with the city of Fargo.
I will turn that over to Christy Lashevsky if she's available.
Sure. Members of the council, Councilmember Durand, normally what happens is the cities of Fargo and Moorhead will enter into an agreement once the bridge is constructed to outline the responsibilities of who maintains what in the long term. Not knowing the exact parameters or design of the bridge, it's difficult to guesstimate what that would be. And I don't have the numbers in front of me of what the current bike and pedestrian bridge maintenance is, but I could certainly get that and send it out to council.
Great, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Any council member wish to be heard on this? Okay, well, thank you, folks. Thank you for the team effort with Ms. Leshevsky and Mr. Stanhoff. Greatly appreciate it. So with that, seeing no other hands up, there's a resolution 12A to approve the sponsorship, and also 12B, the resolution to operate and maintain. And again, I'll always ask Mr. City Attorney, are we able to take both of these all at once? All right. So is there a resolution to approve 12A and 12B?
I am happy to move approval of both motions.
I'll second, Deb White.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none. Madam City Clerk.
Dahlquist?
Yes.
Watson Curry?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Durand?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Lindas?
Yes.
Hendrickson?
Aye.
Seljevold?
Aye.
Motion passes. That takes us down to item number 14 on the agenda, which is the Moorhead Public Service Commission Budget 2021. And I believe to kick that off will be Mr. Travis Schmidt.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and Council. I got two things that was provided to you this evening. We provided a PowerPoint presentation, and as they're bringing that up, I also brought the most recent report to the Commission on the proposed 2021 budget. I'll go over that while the presentation is being brought up. In the most recent report, we talk about what happened in 2020, items that were approved by the Commission and as well the Council if they were awarding any of the bids. We also look at the current projected 2020 operations and then the expected budgeted 2021 operations as well. We also take a look at our purchase power and transmission costs, and as well we look at the transfer of funds to the City of Moorhead and the three components that are tied to that: the general fund transfer, the capital improvement fund transfer, and as well the economic development fund transfer. And again, we look at our net revenues, and we look at our capital improvement plan for the next couple of years as well. We look at 2021, 2022, and then briefly look at the next 3 years after that. We also take a look at our financial strength policy, and from a similar standpoint, we do the same for the water division as well. Looking at capital improvements, transfers, financial strength, and then any financing that occurs as well through that. So with that being said, we'll go into the presentation that we've got this evening. If you can, next slide, please. Again, I appreciate you guys having me here this evening, and I'll try to keep this as short as possible. Again, Moorhead Public Service, we provide the electric and water service for the City of Moorhead and a couple outlying areas as well. Cost of service based is how we handle everything. We did a 2018 electric rate study. We have another one coming up in 22. We did a water rate study in 17, and next year, 2021, we have our next rate study as well. So from that, we take a long-range look at our budget. So we look out about 10 years, and really we hone in on the current year, 2020, we've got an agreement in place from 2019 to 2023. And then operating expenditures, capital improvements, and then our financial strength policy as well ties into all of that. And then really we kind of go into an in-depth review, a 4-month review process for the electric. Again, that's due to having to work with some of our outside agencies, Missouri River Energy Services, Western Area Power, for our purchase power needs. And then a 3-month process for the water because we don't have those external requirements as well. From that standpoint, the commission then appoints an ad hoc budget committee, and that was Commissioner McDougall and Commissioner Paulson this year. And we get them involved as well, probably mid to late September, after staff has worked on it for about a month and a half or so, or even longer, putting together the needs for the year, whether it's cable replacements or water main replacements and other items like that. From there, we have our rate hearing. I should say, first of all, we propose a rate to the budget committee. We had that in probably late September this year, and then we go and have a rate hearing in late October. And then the commission approves the final budget on December 15th of this year as well. Next slide, please. So just for a little bit of looking forward, projections. So again, there's going to be no electric rate increases in 21. We're also going to probably see no rate increases in 22, 23. And then we've got a couple tentative rate increases of about 2% in 2024 and 2025. Now, those are really tied to purchase power needs. And depending upon how those things pan out over the next couple of years, we can see those go down or up. Again, things could change overnight, and we could have to do a rate increase next year potentially. But again, that's going to be tied to an ice storm or having some issues with generation. But for right now, everything seems to be very stable on the electric side, and hopefully nothing needed in 2024, 2025. But we do have some tentative rate increases out there. Water rates for this year, we're looking at about a 3.5% rate increase for 2021. And, through some adjustment in our debt services and looking at projects, at the beginning of this year, we were probably looking at a 6.5% rate increase. Staff has done a really good job of bringing that down. We're looking at 3.5% rate increases actually going into the next 5 years as well, too. So from that, we'll give you a little history and the look forward. So next slide, please. From the electric side of things, we go back to 2009 and all the way up to 2025, and you can see the span of our rate increases over those years. Again, looking into the forward, we have those two tentatives, 2%. But again, we had a large 12% back in 2009, and then it really kind of sat around that 3 to 4% rate increases with a couple lower than that up until 2017. Again, we haven't had any rate increases for the past 3 years, so that's a good thing. We'd like to continue with that as much as possible. Next slide, please. Now from the water side of things, back in 2009, we had a 5%, then it dropped off for a couple of years. And then we really we started doing a lot of work with our water asset management plan. We did a lot of water main replacements, and a lot of that was, and along with that, we did a lot of infrastructure needs. We had the river intake project. We did a high service pump station project. We're now working on a lime sludge dewatering facility. Along with that, we've been doing a bunch of rehab on all of our water towers as well. So from there, you can see we have a 3.5% this year. Previous years, you were seeing those 6.5%, 5 and 6.5% increases as well. Hopefully, we can stay with a 3.5% going into the future. Again, water's a little more volatile. It's only about a $10 million piece of Moorhead Public Service. So, those can change a lot more drastically than on the electric side. So again, we'll watch it. We'll keep an eye on it, but hopefully we can stay at 3.5% rate increase. Next slide, please. Going out in the next 5-year budget, you can see we spent about $35.3 million over the next 5 years. A lot of that is tied to transmission and substation projects, and these are all tied to our master plan that we just actually approved a few meetings ago. We have some work we need to do in our substations, and along with that, our transmission line as well. So that's where a lot of those costs go. again, cable replacement projects and extension upgrade projects as well. And then we've got about $6 million out there for, plant equipment and facilities and upgrades and replacements. Again, those will be looked at as we go out into the next 5 years, seeing if they're necessary or we can, peel back on some of those as well too. One big component we have coming up in the next few years, this is something that the commission will have to look at hard and figure out if they want to do, but we'll be spending about $5.2 million on an automated meter infrastructure system. So replacing our existing meters with a newer system that provides better information, better data, hopefully a little bit more, again, providing more information for the customers as well. And then we have about 1.1 in technology items as well, whether that's replacement of IT equipment, new software, things like that we'll be looking at as well in the coming years. From next slide, please. From the water side, again, we got about $25.6 million over the next 5 years. The largest cost that we can see in the next few years is there's a $12.7 million replacement of the South Buffalo Wells raw water line. So this provides water from the Buffalo Aquifer to the water plant. And this is actually where we could need a little help from city council as well too, and city staff, is see if we could get some bonding money for this instead of having to bond for it, or state bonding money is what I should say, instead of bonding for it specifically. This would help keep our rates down and actually could help lower our rates. I shouldn't say lower our rates, but maybe have 0% rate increases going into the future. But if we have to bond for it, we have to be prepared for about a 3.5% rate increase going into the future. So again, if you can help out with that, that would be much appreciated. Again, we have our water asset management plan has about $5.7 million in water main replacement projects. We've peeled this back a little bit over the past few years, or since last year, just doing projects that really tie into city projects as well too. So if the city's working on a street, we're going to be doing a water main replacement project in that area as well. With that automated meter infrastructure project, there's about $3 million cost to the water division to upgrade the metering system as well. And then they've got $4.2 million in plant equipment and facility and upgrades. Again, that's the I-94 water tower, which we're going to have a nice piece of art on that, along with upgrading, monitoring, and lab equipment and several other items, including aging fleet equipment as well too. Now, in 2021, we're not having a rate increase, but we are having to adjust our surcharges. So next slide, please. And really, there is no real change to the rates for Moorhead Public Service, but in those areas where we've done a service territory annexation into Moorhead, there is a cost difference that those customers pay. For simple math, if Moorhead Public Service rates are 10 cents a kilowatt hour, and the other utilities was 12 cents a kilowatt hour, they pay 11 cents. So we're just adjusting those rates, and that's really more due to those utilities changing their rates and not Moorhead Public Service. Next slide, please. Again, what does the 3.5% on the water side come to? There's two components to it. We have a fixed fee, and then we have a commodity fee. So if you look at the slide in front of you, you'll see that the rate increases are higher than 3.5%. But if you combine that with the next slide, and you look at the commodity charge, overall, it's about a 3.5% rate increase. The commodity charges are barely going up. I think the highest is about just under 3%. But overall, that'll make a whole 3.5% rate increase for all customers. So what does that mean for the overall cost increase for the water rate increase? Next slide, please. So overall, average customer, this is our average customer that uses about 600 cubic feet of water on a monthly basis. They're going to see about $1.46 in increase. $1.20 of that is based on the flat fee or the customer charge, about a 6 cents increase in the commodity, and then a 20-cent increase in the fire protection infrastructure portion. Now that fire protection infrastructure increase is based on a 8-year phase-in of that rate from our last cost of service study. Next slide, please. So again, we have Moorhead Public Service has many renewable programs. Our first one was Capture the Wind. We then went to Capture the Sun. We also have Capture the Energy and Capture the Earth. And actually, we are working on a Capture the Earth, a geothermal project, seeing if it's a viable option to do in Moorhead right now. So more to come on that one in the future. Next slide, please. So one great thing that happened this year, Moorhead Public Service, the commission, approved all customers in Moorhead to go 100% carbon free. Last year, this cost, we were able to do this last year as well, but we did not do it for the entire city because of the cost. And we'll show you that in the next slide. But overall, it was about a $20 per year cost to the customer if they wanted to do that. This year, because of some changes in the portfolio of our purchase power, we were able to get that down to $1.40 per customer. Now, again, we've decided to, next slide, to, as a whole, for the citizens of Moorhead, pay for this completely through rates, and there's no change to the rate. We're just absorbing the cost, and it's going to cost about $60,000 a year. If we were to do this last year, this would have costed about $800,000, which would have been about a 2% rate increase, and one of the reasons why we decided or elected not to do it last year. So good news, great thing for Moorhead. We're going to be 100% carbon free for 2021. And based on conversations we've had with Missouri River Energy staff and their Bright Energy Choices program, which is how we are doing this, we shouldn't see a rate change for the next 5 years, but on an annual basis, we'll be looking at this to make sure it's still financially feasible to do. Next slide, please. One other good thing that happened this year, due to the financial strength of Missouri River Energy Services and some of their projects that were coming in under budget, Moorhead Public Service is going to see a one-time refund, basically, of about 10% or about $1.25 million, which we'll see in December of 2020. Now, this is because Missouri River staff has done a really good job of preparing and working on projects and making sure everything works well. Their reserve levels are at a good spot, so they decided to give their members a refund. So another great thing that's going to happen here in the next few weeks. So where does that electric payment go? Next slide, please. So for the average electric customer, their bill is about $93.24 on a monthly basis. That's based off using about 850 kilowatt hours a month. So based on that, purchase power is about 46%. Our transfer is about 20%. Capital expenditures not financed is about 10%. Salaries, wages, and benefits, 10% as well. Our operating expenses is about 6.16%, and that's everything external to the capital expenditures and salaries. Principal and interest, our bond payments is about 3.4%, and then just making sure we meet our reserve capacity, that's about 3.35%. If you look at that on the next slide, based on about $45.2 million, again, the ratios are the same, but again, looking at it from a whole perspective on the whole budget on the electric side, $20 million goes to purchase power, 9.2 roughly goes to transfer. Capital does another 4.6, almost 4.7 there. Salaries, wages, and benefits about 4.5. Operating expenses about $2.7 million. Principal and interest is about 1.5, and then 1.5 for increasing reserves. So now, how does that look for the water? Next slide, please. So from the water side, average customer using 600 cubic feet per month of water. They have about a $41.50 cost, and 10%, or excuse me, 11% of that goes to chemicals. 6% goes to transfer. Capital items not financed is about 7%. Salaries, wages, benefits is about 26.9%. Operating revenue is about 19.3. Reserves is about 12.8. And principal and interest is about 16.9. So a little bit more diversity in where those monies go compared to the electric side. Again, Water Division has about a almost $11 million budget. Next slide. And again, if you see the percentages and dollars there, about 1.2 in chemical costs, about 650,000 in transfers to the city's funds. Capital items not financed is about 750,000. Salaries, wages, and benefits of almost just under $3 million. Operating expenses about $2 million. Reserves is about 1.3, and principal interest is 1.8%. So how does Moorhead Public Service on the electric side compare to other utilities? Next slide. So right now we, on the electric side, we are kind of right in the middle. We're actually sitting on the lower side of the middle. So if you look at the other utilities in the area, we're on the lower end of that. And recently, Xcel Energy has been looking at doing a rate increase on the North Dakota side. And that's really where our competition is currently. Xcel has a lower cost in North Dakota than we do right across the river. They are looking for roughly a 10% rate increase. And if they do get that 10%, it's going to make us a lot more competitive. We have 4 different classes. We have a residential, a small general service, a general service secondary, and a general service primary. If they get the 10%, I think all but one of those 4 classes, more public service will be lower than Xcel North Dakota. 5%, it's about 50-50. So it's going to make us more competitive in the future, and we should be able to hopefully bring more businesses to Moorhead as well, as long as we can keep our rates where they are at. Next slide, please. So for a customer, again, using a 600 cubic feet, this is where we sit for 2021. Again, Grand Forks and Fargo are definitely lower, but some of the other utilities in the area, East Grand, Thief River Falls, and Fergus are definitely higher. We are playing with East Grand Forks really closely, if you can see that as well. So again, we're in the middle of the range. It'd be nice to be lower. So again, if there's ways we can get some state bonding fund for some of these major projects coming up on the water side, that would help hopefully keep our rates a little bit more stable into the future. So again, next slide. Overall, again, there's no electric rate increase for the overall, except for the surcharge area, of course, for the annex service territories. And then again, water is only going to have a $1.46 increase. So about a 1.1% rate increase to the overall MPS portion of the utility bill. From there, I'll go to the next slide and I'll open it up for any questions or comments.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. That was excellent. And I like the way that everything was broken down, so greatly appreciate the time and energy and effort you put into it. I do see one hand up. Councilmember Hendrickson, your hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just first of all, I want to thank Travis for coming tonight. Really appreciate your dedication and how you manage things at the Moorhead Public Service. I want to thank you too for keeping the water rates low. I remember a year ago, we were looking pretty high, but you managed to come down. So I really appreciate that, and our utility users, I know they appreciate that. Appreciate your partnership working with the city of Moorhead, doing projects together, especially replacing that cast iron water mains, because those need to be replaced. And I appreciate you involving Moorhead and the teamwork there. But I do have a question for you. The automated metering infrastructure, without going into too much detail, what does that mean for the customers? Is it a big process? What's the process? And you don't have to go too far into it, Travis, but what does it mean for the customer?
Sure. Every customer has a water and electric meter currently. We would end up having to replace that. Along with that, we would have to put some other infrastructure in place to read those meters. We would be able to get readings on a more current basis. Currently, we get readings on a monthly basis. We could get them on a 15-minute, hourly, or daily time frame, depending on how much information we want. So that helps a couple ways. It gives us, as a utility, more information to be able to provide usage information. So maybe a customer has a leaky faucet or a leaky toilet. We could see that a lot quicker than 30 days out, and hopefully save money that way as well too. There's other technology as well. It would help with some leak detection. not only within the house, but also on the system as well too. It might see some of that through some harmonics or the way the technology works. On the same side, we'd be able to see more outage information on the electric side as well too. So if the meters are currently out, or if they don't have any power coming through them, they can inform us and let us know that, hey, I'm out of power, and then we can be able to, hopefully quicker than we already do, provide getting those services back on a more timely fashion. But again, those are just a few of the components. There's also remote disconnection opportunities as well from a safety standpoint. We'd have to look at some other components of that as well too. Do we want to bring all the meters outside? The majority of them are outside from the electric side, but there's still some that aren't. And the same with the water side. Those are all inside. Those will stay inside as well too. So again, a lot of technology that would help there. There's also a time of use component that we could work on as well too. Missouri River Energy Services in 2023 will be going to time of use wholesale rates. And unless we put this infrastructure in, we won't be able to actually do time of use retail rates. Now that's got some goods and bads to it as well. Currently Missouri River is looking at 3 different tiers or areas of rate increases or rates. So they'll have a off-peak rate, a mid-peak rate, and then a on-peak rate. And we would probably do something similar as that. But again, customers using a lot of power during a peaking situation, they're going to pay more for it. So it could be beneficial and it could be not beneficial depending on your power usage. It might adjust some of your power usage as well to more off-peak times of the day outside of those peaking situations. And that's really because it costs more to buy that power or make that power during those time of day. The system is constrained at that point in time. So that's really how it would work from the time of use. So, if somebody were to be, diligent and, not be utilizing a lot of power during that on-peak situation, they could actually save money. And that would be for every customer. So it'd be more customer-centric is probably the best way to state it.
Okay, thanks, Travis. And yeah, get that cast iron pipe out of the ground. I appreciate that. So,
we'll continue to work on that.
Councilmember, okay, so we got Councilmember Watson Curry, then Councilmember Lindos, then Councilmember Durant and White. So Councilmember Watson Curry, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Travis, and congrats too. I think the last time you joined us for council, you were the acting general manager, so really glad to have that dropped from your title.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks for the presentation. It was really just very straightforward, factual, easy to follow along that information, which is so critical for our residents. I did have one question. You talked about the refund from Missouri River Energy, MRES. I can't remember what all acronyms stand for. I was curious if you had that earmarked at all for anything specific, and if you mentioned that, I apologize, I just didn't catch it.
Yep.
And the other just kind of larger, more global question that I have, well, I'll let you answer that, and then I'll launch into something else, I guess.
Sure. So, the plan for that, we've looked at it in several different ways. And what we plan to do is we're going to put it into our reserves. We would really like to utilize it, and we'll talk with the commission more on this. We did actually bring it up to them last week at our commission meeting. We're planning to put it into reserves and utilize it over the next few years. We've got a lot of capital improvements, and we're going to utilize reserves for those instead of having to do a rate increase or bond for it. Our rates are in a good, our reserves are in a good spot right now, where we can do that, where we don't have to finance anything, or we don't have to increase rates for it either. So big plan, probably utilizing it for AMI or other capital improvement projects that we would have. And that would, again, help minimize rate increases in the future as well.
Thanks for clearing that up. And then I guess my other just kind of global question that I have too is I've been so grateful that MPS has been really flexible in making sure that people are safe in their houses as we're navigating through this pandemic. So it's come up in conversation with some other things with council too. How do you kind of foresee that conversation as far as, we have some accounts payable building up, particular to this circumstance? Has there been more focused conversations on kind of getting some of those debt payment plans? Or if you could just speak a little bit more globally, I just think it's a weird circumstance. And so I've been really grateful that it's been flexible to put people first, but just curious where you envision that going. Thank you.
Yep. So staff has done a really good job. We, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they've reached out to about 800 customers. Those customers had bills that were 3 months or more past due. Trying to communicate with them, trying to get them to the assistance agencies. There's a lot of money available to help those that need some help out. And, they were trying to make personal phone calls to do that. We've been posting a lot of things on Facebook and Twitter, as well as connecting it to the City of Moorhead's Facebook account as well. We are sending out have sent out actually we are over the next about month or so, because our billing takes about a month to complete. Everybody will get a bill stuffer that gives the 3 agencies that help with the that's going on. So those are a few things that have been going on. Mayor Judd, Chair Thompson, Christine Thompson, Acting Manager Molly, and myself have also been having a meeting about every 3 to 4 weeks, talking about the past due balances and how we come out of this. So we are working on a policy, or I shouldn't say policy, a payment arrangement plan agreement. Again, but the biggest thing is trying to get people to get in contact with those assistance agencies so we can work through some of those processes ahead of time, get them the funding they need before we get to that process of where we have to go back to normal. Now, the Minnesota Municipal or Public Utilities Commission basically has 60 days as kind of the time frame of once they remove the declaration for COVID, that they can start the disconnection process. So we're talking about that. Now, that is only for regulated utilities. Moorhead Public Service is not a regulated utility, but we're kind of been following that. We've got some tentative ideas in place on how we want to handle that, but it'll be, probably after the first of the year, probably February timeframe before we even start communicating that. And it really is going to depend on how the next couple of months go, and where we go from here with either a vaccination or getting businesses and people back to work and stuff like that.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Watson Curry. And then we have Councilmember, excuse me, Lindos, then Councilmember Durand, then White.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Schmidt. I appreciate you being here. And you actually answered a bunch of my questions that my fellow council members Watson Curry and Hendrickson just asked. I don't want to start geeking out over automatic metering, but it opens this whole wealth of the ability for residents to actually start helping MPS deliver even better services. The one thing you didn't mention, so I'm really excited, especially about the fact that you could potentially find water leaks before they becomes problems in people's homes, and better knowledge about outages, power outages, is extremely helpful and can save people's lives. So I think these are really great things to do. Are we going to have the ability potentially to be able to see our water and electric usage in real time? So like a phone app to help residents actually monitor their usage. And we know that if you measure it, people oftentimes, as you pointed out, if they know that it's going to be cheaper to use power in the evening versus morning, I was one of those people that waited till evening to call my grandparents up because long distance rates were cheaper then. So that's the question is, are we going to be able to have the ability to see our usage?
say that one more time? I kind of missed your question there.
Yeah, you scrolled right when I said, are we going to have the ability to see our usage in real time potentially, or 15-minute increment time?
Yeah, correct. Yep. So with the AMI system, that'll allow that ability to happen. We'll have to look at how we do that, whether it's through an app or through the My MPS Bill application, and how we handle that. There's ways to do it out there. It's just something we don't have the capability of currently doing. Again, the other question that always comes up is how many people are going to be interested in it. You know, me as an engineer, you know, yeah, I'm kind of nerdy and I'm going to want to look at that. No, however, some people just want their power and water, and they don't worry about the usage and stuff like that. So it's a great thing, and it not only would it be beneficial to the customers, it would be beneficial to the utility as well. And not only that, it would help out. I know I've had some conversations with Bob Zimmerman on this as well, and there's things that he could utilize some of that information for as well from the wastewater side. So it's not just a MPS thing. It could help city staff as well too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lindos. Then it's Councilmember, I think I had Councilmember Duran. Is that an old hand or a new hand?
Oh, that's a new hand.
Okay, so we'll go you, the Councilmember White. Somehow it got jumped. I'm not sure how that happened, but go ahead.
I just want to say thank you, Travis. I don't recall having an MPS staff person, let alone a manager, come and present this much information to the council, so much helpful information to the council. I'm just very grateful and very thankful that we are on the road to creating a better path and a more congenial path. And I guess I just want to say thank you. I'm very optimistic that we are going to have a much better partnership here on out.
No, I appreciate that, Heidi. Thank you very much. And again, thank you for your time on both the council and the commission as well, and working through some of the budget stuff this season as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Duran, and we'll pass it to Councilmember White.
Thank you, Mayor. And Travis, I wanted to thank you for your thorough presentation, and also for the work that you and your staff have done to try to keep the rates down. I wanted to go back to you brought up the possibility of a future bonding request, and I was really glad that you brought that up, because I know that it's come up in commission meetings, and I really wanted to direct my question comment to my colleagues that might be, now would be a great time for us to be having those conversations. This upcoming session is not a bonding year, and so if we start talking about it now and collaborate on a plan, we could potentially, if we decide to move ahead with that, we could put together a really good case to get that into a future bonding bill. So I'm glad that you did that, and I hope that can be just the start of our conversation of where we're going to go with that.
Yep, I appreciate that. Yeah, we've got the roughly $12.7 million dollars for that replacement of that line. We can get the dwarf funding and things like that, but there's still a cost to doing that. So again, going through the state bonding bill would help reduce those rate increases that we could have in the future. And not only that one, and I didn't bring this up because it's past the 5-year mark, it's out in that 5 to 10-year range. We are working with the Minnesota Department of Health and Natural Resources to put another well in on the Buffalo Aquifer down by Sabin, or maybe it's the Sabin Aquifer. I don't remember. I think it's still the Buffalo Aquifer, but it's closer to Sabin, and that's going to have another $12 million cost. So again, those two projects alone is $24 million, and again, $10 million, $11 million roughly for operations of the water utility. That's a lot of cost to be taking on, especially with all the other projects that we've had to do over the past 10 years. So, again, bonding money, state bonding money would definitely help minimize those rate increases.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Councilmember Dahlquist, your hand is up.
I didn't want to be the only one that didn't say thank you for a really nice
presentation was really easy to read, and I will miss my meter reader when it comes to that.
Thank you, Councilmember Dahlquist. Anyone else wish to be heard on this? All right, well, Moorhead residents, it was a great introduction to your MPS General Manager, Travis Schmidt. He's going to do a great job with MPS. He's innovative. He's a holistic thinker. And he, as you can see tonight, is a great communicator. So we look forward to working with him in the future. And I guess unless there's any other questions or thoughts, again, we thank you for being here, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. Thank you for having me as well.
All right. So then we'll move to item number 15 on the agenda under administration. There's a first reading of ordinance 2020-12, an ordinance to repeal Title II, Chapter 2A, pool, billiards, and other amusement devices from the Moorhead City Code. And I believe with that is Madam City Clerk, Christina Rust.
Good evening, everyone. In an effort to clean up our city code and sort of reviewing some historical code, we recently found this ordinance. It was actually passed in 1980. So just a mere year after I was born. So it sounds like there were some major pool, billiards, and amusement device problems back then. There have never been changes to this ordinance, and at this time, we currently have 2 businesses in Moorhead that are paying a yearly renewal fee. It's a small fee, but it is just paperwork for them for basically pool tables and dartboards. So it seems like now is the time to make these changes. So at this time, we are just asking the council to repeal this Title II, Chapter 2A of Moorhead City Code, and then we will have a second reading at the first meeting in December.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk, for that overview. Does it bring about any questions or thoughts from council? Hearing, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the first reading of this ordinance?
Watson Curry. Oh, I'll second. Watson Curry second.
Did you catch who made the motion? I heard a voice, but I couldn't tell who it was. Who wants to be credited for making the motion?
That was Jeff White, Councilmember White.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam City Clerk.
This is going to be in, I mean, this will be in the record book, so congratulations, you guys. Dahlquist?
Yes.
Watson Curry?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Durand?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Seldrevold?
Aye.
Hendrickson?
Aye.
Lindos?
Yes.
Motion passes. Then that moves us to item number 18, excuse me, on the agenda, the 2021 budget summary. Acting City Manager, Dan Molly, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to try and put a mask on. I may be able to speak through a little more clearly here. Different formal masks and informal masks and all this stuff. And that's really great, that last motion. I mean, I guess the days of coin-operated cigarette machines are behind us. So with that. You know, tonight so what we're bringing in front of you tonight is an attempt to be completely transparent and open with our budget and our information. So you'll recall in September, we approved a preliminary budget where we could not raise the tax levy or rate above that 2% that was set. We had a effective tax rate of a little over 1.5%, and we looked at a 0.45% to get to that 2% levy. We're going to look at that. What we're trying to do today is get all of the information to you, out to the public, out on our website, out into the community, so that if you have any questions or if we want to discuss it any further, we're here, we're available ahead of December 14th when the final budget will be before you. So we don't want to put this information in front of you on the 14th and then ask you to approve it and then question and wonder what's happening. So we have time to do this work. And it's a good time to do it because with all the uncertainty with COVID, we are undergoing 5 union negotiations at the moment. The department directors have been great to work with, frankly, on this. We asked them, if you don't need it this year, don't ask for it. We tried to put a cap on capital expenditures, extending lives by 1 year, and this has been a team effort, and we feel that from you. And with that, we endeavored to work together, as you'll see here, all working together to serve our community, to provide the essential services, to support employees, and then do that in a balanced budget framework and minimize the tax rate as much as we can. So here is that property tax overview that, and before I get into it too, I also want to recognize Carla, our finance director, Carla McCall, and our finance division department for their work, specifically accountant Joel Hare, who's a part of that as well. We've just been grinding away and really appreciate their efforts. So here's that 2021 property tax overview that I mentioned, where we were looking at an estimated tax rate increase of 0.45% total tax capacity. So we can see where we've been over the last 6 years or so, since 2015, and recognizing the times that we're in, not putting burden on taxpayers. Next, we have here general fund expenditures, the buckets. So here you'll see where the police department is about 34% of the budget, fire 15, engineering 8, public works 10%. 1 dime out of every dollar goes to removing the snow and cutting the grass and maintaining the parks and all of that kind of stuff. So here we can see where all those expenditures are. This is our levy summary. So this is where the sources that we use to pay the bills. Debt service, permanent improvement funds, to the library, the general fund. We have the Economic Development Authority has a separate taxing authority. Clay County, the Moorhead School District, the Housing and Development Authority, the Watershed District, they're all separate taxing authorities as well. So this is an interesting slide. So this is a single dollar, and this shows where how much of every dollar goes to the different services that are out there. This includes the levy increase that taxpayers voted on for the school district in the last year. So we'll see out of every dollar, 38 cents goes to the county, 26 to the school, 34 cents to the city, 1 cent to the Economic Development Authority and Housing and Redevelopment Authority, and 1 cent to the Watershed District. So that 2%, what does that mean for a median home value, a homeowner's? The median average home is valued at $185,900. That would be a monthly increase of 27 cents. For a home valued at $300,000, we're looking at a monthly increase of 48 cents. This does not affect commercial property taxes, as the state pays the increase through the disparity credit. This is what we were talking with Representative Lean about, and some of the great work that legislative advocacy that's gone on. That disparity credit balances the commercial property rate between the North Dakota and the Minnesota side of the river. Overall, related to rates, we're holding steady with the exception of wastewater and sanitation. And so with this, with wastewater, we had much needed expenses to rehabilitate a large part of the wastewater system in the last year. A large part of this involves old brick services. I'm looking here. 1940s vintage brick, about 1.25 miles. These sewers serve about 1/2 of the city and needed to be done. And so what we're looking at here is if we don't, keep moving with it, the quality and the important work that we have to do to maintain our sewer system goes down. So with that blue line, as you see that coming down, if we keep our rates the same, it just keeps dropping. With the 2.5%, we're looking at being able to maintain that. And then this also, over the next 10 years, includes the possibility of a $10 million project to continue the important rate that we have to maintain that sewer line. You know, when we're talking about building a community, they say that, you know, if you were to start in the middle of a field, you would do this work first. You would find water, and cut a ditch and make a road. And then, you know, then you can start. So this is at the source of what we do. This results on a median, on an average home, this would be 78 cents a month. Sanitation rates, we could see, we've got a policy whereby the minimum we want to hold in reserves is 25%. The red line on this graph is our minimum reserve fund, and the green line is this coming year. So you could see where we're at. So we have some work to do to build back up. This sanitation fund, we haven't seen, we've had the sanitation rate has not changed in over a decade, since it looks like about 2007. With this increase to bring that back, and we've made some real incredible improvements to the efficiency and the system and the diversity of the sanitation system related to recycling and working with neighbors. This on an average home would amount to 33 cents a month. One of the exciting things we did in this year's budget was this capital improvement plan. Our public works director said this one the best. So what we've done, and we have a 5 years capital improvement plan, and we can see across the organization now, if we're talking whatever the facility needs are, vehicle needs, infrastructure needs, and everything else. So as a team, we're able to, if something needs to happen sooner, we can all work together to make it happen, or if something needs to wait, we can explain why. And so this capital improvement plan is now in place. We used it this year. This will inform the strategic planning process, hopefully in the new year, and then ultimately a long-term financial plan, so that we can really get into knowing when and how we're going to meet some of the growing needs, especially as they relate to some of these larger expenditures, and we can plan for them over a longer course of time. And with that, before I wrap up, I just want to summarize everything. So looking at a levy increase of 2%, which was approved in September, that does result in a tax rate increase of 0.45% overall. We've got the water rate increase of 2.5% and sanitation at 3.5% this year. The estimated monthly costs on the average home would be, on the property tax, 27 cents a month, wastewater 78 cents a month, and sanitation 33 cents a month. Annual total, when you add them all together, $1.38, and then the annual would be $16.56. Heading forward, we have this presentation, an update to get this in front of you and the public, and then on Monday, December 14th, we're going to bring the whole works to you. That's going to be the final levy, budget, capital improvement plan, fee schedule, and ask for your approval at that time. With this budget we want to get the first reading of the fee schedule, which is item number 19. The recommendation is to approve that, and then that ordinance will also have a second reading with this budget and the EDA budget on December 14th. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting City Manager Molly, for all your work and your staff and the work on that. Does this bring about any questions or comments from council? Councilmember White, your hand is up.
Thanks, Mayor. Just two very brief comments. One is I do really appreciate the work that the staff did to make sure that we could keep that property tax rate increase low, but also having a modest increase so we don't have to dip into our reserves. So if we have some tough years ahead, that we will have that available for us. The other thing is, just for folks who may be listening, I know, I just wanted to emphasize again the importance of that increase in the wastewater rate, because you know, not just because I happen to live in one of those neighborhoods that has those brick line sewers, but because we know that if we do nothing, the cost will be so much greater than if we work on addressing this decaying, you know, these decaying pipes. And in fact, just to remind people, I think it was about a year ago or so that we had a sinkhole develop on Main Avenue where one of these, in part of that system. And I know that our city engineers talked to us about that it is much more expensive when it starts to fail and we have more catastrophic problems than if we do the right thing right now and invest instead of kicking the can out.
Great, thank you, Councilmember Wyatt. Does that bring about any other comments or questions from anyone? All right. Thank you, Mr. Molly.
Thank you, Mayor.
That moves us to item number 19 on the agenda, the first reading of ordinance number 2020-13, an ordinance adopting the 2021 fee schedule as Mr. Molly referenced. I'm not sure if you want to add any other additional comment to that at all?
No.
Does this bring up any questions or comments from council? Seeing, hearing none, is there a motion to?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Councilmember Seljevold was waving his finger there.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Seljevold.
I can wait till the bill is on the floor.
Okay. All right, so is there a motion to adopt the first reading?
So moved, Deb White.
Watson Curry, second.
Motion's made and seconded. And then any comments? And I see Councilmember Seljevold. I'll pass over to you.
Yeah, I would like us to approve this with the idea that the staff will look at those licenses and businesses that have been affected greatly by the pandemic. They've either had to work at less than capacity or had to shut down. Those licenses should be looked at and see if we can give those businesses a break. And then at our second reading, we can approve those. So I'd like to see staff come with some recommendations for our second reading that maybe we can give some businesses a break that have been affected greatly by the pandemic.
Thank you, Councilmember Seljevold. Does that bring about any questions or comments from council? All right. Not hearing or seeing any, then the motion has been made and seconded. Madam City Clerk?
Dahlquist?
Yes.
Watson Curry?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Durand?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Seljevold?
Aye.
Hendrickson?
Aye.
Lindos?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. That moves us to item number 20, Mayor and Council reports. And I'll defer to council. Is there anyone that has a report they wish to make this evening? See Councilmember Dahlquist, then Councilmember Carlson. Councilmember Dahlquist.
Thank you, Mayor. It's just in our agenda number 16, it's the approval of the agreement with Moorhead Community Access Media. And I just want to mention Tony Tilton, who runs it, and how much work he does. He volunteers so much time. And of course, Chris Ratty is on that board, and all the work he has done. He's been amazing this year, and I just want to show some appreciation for all the work that they do.
Thank you, Councilmember Dahlquist, and I would agree that we all would echo that exact sentiment. So thank you for bringing that up. Councilmember Carlson, your hand is up, then Councilmember Watson Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to do a quick report from the Lake Agassiz Regional Library Board meeting. And I'm not sure why my camera is not working. I apologize for that. But they have collaborated with Legal Services of Northwest Minnesota And Legal Services in Northwest Minnesota will be putting legal kiosks in several libraries in the Laurel area. One of them is in Moorhead, and they will have computers, webcams, scanners, printers, for individuals to be able to gain legal services without having to travel around the region, and to do so in a COVID-friendly, safe way. They are not up and running yet, but they should be so by the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Carlson. Councilmember Watson Curry, your hand is up.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week, it just so happened that all of my council responsibilities sort of fell on my calendar. So I won't report on all of them because there wasn't major action on all of them. I will say MetroCog Policy Board met on the 17th, and they offered up some, there's an open spot on the Policy Advisory Committee. So if there's anybody who's really excited to talk about the statewide multimodal transportation plan, have we got an opportunity for you? And so neither Chuck or I stood up for that opportunity at that meeting, but I believe Acting City Manager Dan Molly has that, so he can share that. Of course, it would also be open for anyone in the Clay County Commission as well.
Dilworth too.
Dilworth, thank you. And then I did also want to mention that the Cass Clay Food Partners still has an at-large open seat for an at-large position, and this is particular for residents to get involved. So if there's any residents who feel passionate about food and food access issues in the community, whether you live here in Moorhead or in Clay County or across the river in Cass County, applications are open. So that's a really fantastic way to kind of get some insight. It's a wonderful team to provide some great learning, and I think there's going to be a lot of positive motion from that particular commission. And then I just wanted to say that I got to enjoy, well, I had a glass of water, but we had a coffee with the mayor, virtual coffee with the mayor and my fellow council member, Shelley Dahlquist. And that was a really fun experience. And so thanks for the residents who popped on. We had a number of Boy Scouts that were earning their, or Scouts that were earning their a governmental badge and participating in conversation. So just really appreciate the staff's support, and Mayor, for your leadership and openness for inviting the community to give us the good, the bad, and the ugly. So it was, nothing got ugly, but it was a lot of fun. So thank you all involved in that. I'll mute my mic.
Thank you, Councilmember Watson Curry. Appreciate your words on that. And, and yes, and when I get to my report, I'm doing a follow-up because that was Troop 644, correct? If I'm not mistaken. Okay. Councilmember White, your hand is up.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to give a quick update from our Human Rights Commission meeting last week. We reviewed the applications for the 2020 Human Rights Award and selected the recipients, and I believe we'll be announcing those, recognizing them at our next council meeting. And as you know, normally we do things to make a kind of, we'll have a reception, celebration, but we can't during COVID. So I just encourage my fellow council members to watch for the announcement about that and encourage people to join in on the meetings, and so that we can get together to highlight the great work that folks in our community are doing to promote equity and inclusion.
Thank you, Councilmember White, for the update, and thank you for your work on the commission to get us a nice list of folks who are doing great work. Appreciate that. Anyone else wish to add anything to their council reports? And now those new hands or old hands, Councilmember Carlson and Watson Curry.
I actually have one other thing I'd like to add, I guess.
No, go ahead.
One thing that I was looking at my calendar, I just wanted to put it on people's radar, is right now I've been sitting in on the Red River Valley COVID task force meetings. It ends up being mostly informational, and it is just an advisory task force, but they meet once a week on Wednesdays. And so I know my time is coming to an end on the term on council, so just wanted to put that out there and put a bug in people's ear. Hopefully it is not something that exists for too much longer, but obviously it's an important, one of the meetings that I know happens to help kind of communicate between the different jurisdictions. So just wanted to put that out there that I'm still happy to attend as I'm able through the end of this year, but my time's limited, so if we want to have a further conversation offline about that, we can. That's it. I will now officially lower my hand.
No worries at all. Thank you for sharing that. And folks, I'll be brief. Met with the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities. I'm now on the board, and we discussed legislative lobbying efforts that we're going to be undertaking in 2021. I'll give an update when those become finalized. Also, Minnesota Mayors Together meeting, and just to give a brief background and overview for those at home or those that might not be aware, the Minnesota Mayors Together is a nonpartisan group of mayors from the Metro and Greater Minnesota who we work together to find commonality regarding issues that affect all Minnesotans. And I'm on that executive committee. What we're focusing on and right now is obviously broadband throughout Greater Minnesota. And I'll speak more on that later as that's coming together. But also the focus, we have Commissioner Grove from Minnesota DEED usually meets with us every time we meet. And it's every other week, and it gives us a 15 to half an hour, 30-minute session to figure out what's going on our home fronts and how Minnesota DEED can help out. So to Councilmember Seljevil's point regarding assistance for our small businesses, currently we're brainstorming with Commissioner Grove about how we can make that happen. So details on that later, but just so you know that your voices are being heard and we're trying to follow up as much as we can. Coffee with the mayor was great. Shout out to Troop 644 for participating. And also, just a heads up for folks, on December 3rd from 6 to 7, we'll be featuring Ward 3 council members Deb White and Larry Seljevold. So they'll be next up as well. And just so folks are aware, this is nothing that's really official. It's just a time to really just have a conversation with folks and with council, really informal. So bring your kids, bring your pets. It's all good. Feel free just to ask questions and participate and ask any questions that you may want to ask us about the state of affairs with the city, neighborhoods, things of that nature. So come on, come on. And with that, I don't think I have any other items to bring up unless anyone from council has any questions for me. All right. Seeing none, then I'll hand it over to Acting City Manager Dan Molley.
Thank you, Mayor. So starting with just a real quick piece of housekeeping. Historically, the Moorhead City Council has not met on the fourth Monday of December. A while ago, we discussed not having that meeting. I think it's December 28th this time around. We've looked, and it appears that all of our December business can fit within that agenda on December 14th. So looking for head nods to just kind of move ahead, making sure that's our intent of not having that December 28th meeting. I'm seeing heads going back and forth and smiles and everything. I agree completely. Thank you. That's wonderful. So I have hard news to deliver. Our Moorhead staff family is heartbroken with the passing of Mary Schmidt. She worked in our community development department for many years. She was kind and a delight to work with. We're all sad, and she's just dearly missed. It was very abrupt. And so we're struggling with that. And continuing on that sad news train, our Public Works Director, Steve Moore, has accepted a position to lead operations and emergency management with the Moorhead School District. And so, although he's very happy, and we fought very hard to keep him, this is a hard loss for our team as well. Steve's good nature and sense of humor and strong work ethic just made him great to work with and to call a friend. So he's a dedicated servant leader, and he's going to be dearly missed as well. The one consolidation here is that he's going to continue serving in the Moorhead community. So I just wanted to be sure we got that news to you. And as it's happening now, I believe Steve's last day will be December 18th. So very hard time to lose a leader in that operational function as we move forward with snow and ice operations. And so we're underway planning now. We've got some great talent there. But I'll be reporting back at the next meeting as far as what those plans look like. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Molly, for that report. And again, I think on behalf of the Mary Schmidt family, we do send our condolences here from council. Obviously, I did not know Mary well, but every time I did see her, again, big smile and full of humor. And so I know that the staff has, or currently they are hurting right now, so we do send our condolences to the family. And also a congratulations to Steve Moore on his acceptance of a new position. Again, he's done a great job for the city, but we're happy that he has still decided to keep his family here, because he's a very valued member of our community as well. So, but a big loss as well. So with that, we'll move to item number 22, which was an executive session. 22A, a closed executive session pursuant to Minnesota statute section 13D.05, subdivision 3, paren B, to provide the city attorney and human resources director instructions regarding negotiation of an employment agreement with the preferred candidate for city manager. So with that, is there a motion to take us into executive session?
So moved.
Second, Zelderville.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam City Clerk.
Dahlquist,
Yes.
Watson Curry,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Durand,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Seldgevold,
Aye.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Lindas.
Yes.
Motion passes. We are in executive session. Joking.
I said just give him $5 more and we'll hold on.
Right. Let me know when you're ready. All right. So that takes us to, well, I guess technically, I have to get out of executive session. Or can I
No,
just
you just
we're
need to gavelled out.
All right, sweet. Number 23, new business. There's no business to come before the council this evening. Acting City Manager Molly, Madam City Clerk, any citizens that wish to be heard or to address the council? All right. With that, I will adjourn the meeting 8:52 p.m. Good night, Moorhead. Stay safe and healthy.